Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this earthquake deep dive. And today I have meteorologist Jake Lambright here with me, and we've just been discussing, the earthquake of it all. If you felt that this morning. Now, before the break, we were talking about what causes earthquakes to happen. And, now that we're back, I really want to know is there a way that scientists can predict earthquakes like this before they happen? Because, and also a follow up question to that, did we know that this earthquake was going to happen? It seems like it came out of nowhere.
Yes, and in a way, yes, we can kind of tell when there might be an earthquake, but also no at the same time. That's why this morning this was so out of the blue. I mean, if it was something we could warn about, it's certainly something, you'd hear us talk about, hey, we might see a big earthquake tomorrow. Now, whenever bigger earthquakes like this happen, we can oftentimes expect smaller aftershocks after the fact. And we can dive into those percentages a little more here in a second. But there are decent percentages for smaller and weaker earthquakes as we go through the next 24 hours to even week. And those probabilities do get higher as more time goes on.
Okay. Now, are aftershocks something? Because I know when we hear about earthquakes, there's always, the concern about aftershocks. Even though this isn't something that's pretty common in Louisiana, I still wanted to know if aftershocks are something that residents should be prepared for tonight or in the coming days.
Yes, we do have the chance to see aftershocks. We'll start off with kind of the next week, the next 7 days. Whenever it comes to a weaker earthquake between magnitude 3 and 4, and we've seen several of these across the Arctic since December alone. I believe we've seen about well, now I'd have to redo the count, but we've seen multiple throughout December, throughout early January, even into February too. So for the weaker earthquakes, there's a 41% chance that we will see some of those as aftershocks within the next 7 days. Now, a magnitude 4 to magnitude 5, and we were closer to that 5 this morning, there's an 11% chance of another one of those stronger earthquakes happening within the next 7 days. Now, anything greater than magnitude 5, there's a 1% chance in the next week, and then stronger than that, magnitude 6, magnitude 7, those really, really strong earthquakes, there's a less than 1% of that happening across the Arctic. Now, within the next 24 hours, we've got a 26% chance of seeing the possibility for some weak aftershocks of magnitude 3 to 4 strength, and a 5% chance of seeing something similar to what we saw this morning. Looking at the month time frame, we've got a 51% chance of seeing a magnitude 3 to 4 earthquake. Again, that's in the next 30 days, and then a 16% chance at seeing a magnitude 4 or greater earthquake. And then if you're curious, out all the way to a year and, like I said, predicting earthquakes, when there's a large one like this, you can kind of predict that there might be some aftershocks after this, but this forecast here, this is USGS. They're saying within the next year, there's likely a 65% chance or greater that we see a magnitude 3 to 4 earthquake here close by to that Red River, DeSoto Parish area. A 26% chance we see another stronger earthquake like what we saw this morning, and then a 5% chance of a magnitude 5 or greater earthquake.
Wow. And I'm floored by all this, actually, Jake. Why here? Why now? Why in Louisiana? This is just so unprecedented, I guess is the word that I would use.
I completely agree with you, and I've actually been working to line up an interview with somebody that will hopefully be able to provide us a little bit more information on the why this area, why so much. Because if you look back all the way to December of 2024, I should have wrote this down this morning when I was looking at it. I was looking at some stats that I pulled, and we've seen dozens of earthquakes since the start of 2024. But I did do a deep dive way back, and actually, I may see if I can't find some of that data real quick on the fly here. But there have been some years and some decades even where there's hardly an earthquake reported in Louisiana. And then in recent years, those numbers have seemed to gone up. Again, I don't know why, and I don't want to speculate, so I will not do that here. But
Yes.
the pure data there showing, again, that there's been an increase. And it does look like, okay, I did find some of my data. So I made a video back in December, so these numbers are not up to March of 2026. But since December of 2024, there have been 8 earthquakes. From December 2024 to December 5th of 2025, 8 earthquakes in Louisiana, all of them out toward Coshada and toward the Mooringsport area. So all right here in northwest Louisiana. Most of them were very weak, magnitude 2, magnitude 3 types of earthquakes, so nothing very strong. And that's what's most common for us. However, looking at certain years, 1983 there was an earthquake reported, one reported in 2005, one in 2010, 2018, and 2022. But the years that stand out to me, 2021, we saw 4 earthquakes. 2024, we saw 16 earthquakes. And then in 2025, up to the start of December, we saw 3 earthquakes. So one question that I'm really curious about, and this is one we'll have to speak to some experts that know a little bit more about earthquakes, is are we detecting more earthquakes because we're putting more kind of detection sites out there, more observation sites, or are we just seeing more earthquakes in Louisiana in general?
That is a great, and that was one of my questions for you. So we will definitely speak to an expert and get back to you guys on that because that is a great question. So in terms of just earthquakes in general, are there any sort of hazards that could happen or anything that people need to, watch out for or be prepared for with earthquakes?
It's really tough because here in Louisiana, the ones that we see really don't impact us at all. This is probably the most impactful earthquake we've had in the Arklatex, maybe ever. We'll have to kind of look back and do a deep dive of some records. For sure, in recent times, this is the most impactful. It's hard to really prepare for them in a sense. If you're worried about another strong one within the next couple of weeks, which again, the chances are low, but not zero. If you have any loose items on the wall, you might want to secure those or bring those down temporarily. But otherwise, it is tough to prepare for earthquakes. There are some more earthquake prone areas, where we typically hear about the big ones out off Alaska, the coast of Russia, for example. And I'm sure the preparations there look different. They also have much stronger earthquakes, magnitude 6, magnitude 7. They're not uncommon there. So for us, I wouldn't say that there's anything to be too concerned about in terms of preparation. It's just really difficult because we don't see even the weak earthquakes too frequently here across the state.
And I also want to ask about the differing locations in which we felt the earthquakes. I know that I live in South Shreveport. We felt it out there. I know we felt it a little bit at KSLA, but some people are saying that they didn't feel it at all, but they're here in the area. So how is that affected? How does your location really affect how you feel the earthquakes?
So the further away you are from the epicenter, the weaker that the earthquake feels. So while this morning Dominique and Celeste and Eva were able to feel the earthquake, I wasn't too far away, but also a little higher up off the ground. I didn't feel a thing. The way I figured out about it was I got a little notification that said, there's a big earthquake happening to your south right now. And I was kind of surprised. I had to double check it and make sure because, again, we just don't see things like this in Louisiana. So if you're up, maybe your house is a little bit above the ground and you're far, far away from the epicenter, then, maybe you don't feel it as much. I know if I was asleep today, I definitely would not have felt it just because here at Shreveport it was as weak as it was. But I've seen reports, of course, across Shreveport-Bossier, but that it was felt out in parts of East Texas too. I mean, that's fascinating to think how far that earthquake was able to be felt today.
Exactly. And that's just to even conceptualize all of this happening has been really kind of weird to see, but also kind of exciting to see something and experience something like this, like an earthquake. But I guess my final question for you is, what is the most important message that you want our viewers to take away from, what you've been saying about the earthquake since this morning? You've been very active on social media. Want to shout out Jake. Go check out his Facebook as well because there's a lot of coverage going on there. But what should viewers take away right now with all of this earthquake?
Yes, I guess the main takeaway, and it's kind of a common misconception that we don't see earthquakes a lot. Like I said, we've seen more and more of these smaller earthquakes right here in northwest Louisiana over the past couple of years. So we'll have to continue to monitor things. And like I said, we'll get a lot more answers from the experts. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I was trying to line this up here recently. We had a very weak earthquake just a couple weeks ago. So I've been trying to get some answers there because I want to know too, as many of you are probably curious, are we going to continue seeing more of these small earthquakes? Are they going to increase in frequency? Do we see more larger ones? These are all great questions. And then also figuring out if we're going to continue to see these grow in frequency and if the chance of stronger and larger earthquakes are possible, how can we best prepare ourselves for that if it happens again? Because as if we were talking about before, you can't really forecast them. Definitely not weather forecasting, but you can't really predict them. They just kind of happen, and so oftentimes we can be caught off guard. One thing I do want to share as well, while I'm thinking about it, we just got some new information in from USGS maybe a half hour ago, confirming that there were 2 additional earthquakes to the north and northeast of the major one that happened within an hour before. So the first one happened at 4:26 a.m. on the north side of the Red River. So that big one was near Grand Bayou, just south of Grand Bayou on US 84. That was south of the Red River. This one happened immediately north. It was a magnitude 2.2. So again, that's one of those weak ones. very rural area right on the river. You would have had to be there to feel it. Another one was just east of that, east of US Highway 71, east of Grand Bayou. This one was a magnitude 2.9, so a little stronger. Still one of those you're not going to feel, though, unless you're right there. That happened at 5:13 this morning, and then the big one that was felt across much of the Arklatex was a 4.9 magnitude earthquake that happened around 5:30. So, again, we've got that chance for aftershocks. I'm monitoring things closely. We'll give you the first alerts, no matter if it's weak or stronger. We'll let you know how things evolve as we go through the next couple days.
Great. Well, Jake, I just want to say thank you so much for coming in and speaking with me today. I know that a lot of the viewers have really been curious since this morning, since the earthquake happened, and I've been curious myself. So you've answered a lot of the questions that I've had and that the viewers have had, so we appreciate you. And I just want to remind everyone to stay tuned into the KSLA social sites. Stay tuned into the KSLA website, and you can catch Jake here a little bit later on KSLA News 12. So please be sure to tune in and watch there. And we will give you the first alert, like Jake said, on the earthquakes and everything that you need to know. And so, yes, once again, I am Kennedy Wells, your KSLA streaming anchor. And this has been a pleasure to speak with you guys today. Stay tuned for more earthquake-related content. See you guys next time.